Hello?
Gregg Reeves.
Who's this?
You know that 615 area code. Hey, man, we're doing the Tornado podcast, and I suckered you into it. You ready to roll?
I'm not in Moore anymore. I'm a couple miles from Canadian County, a couple miles from Oklahoma County, and a couple miles from McLean County. So when the sirens go off, I have no idea.
You people just run into each other like the Stooges?
Yeah, I mean, I have to get up and figure out whose sirens are blowing to know if I'm in trouble or not.
All right, we'll get it figured out. Let's go. All right, everybody, hunker down this week. It's getting a little warmer, and springtime is coming to Oklahoma. So,
what else is there to talk about besides springtime Oklahoma weather?
We tell stories. We set the scene here. So, what have I done? I've invited the most soft-spoken, laid-back dude I've ever known. Smart. Gregg Reeves. Gregg, welcome in, bud.
Thanks, Scott. How you doing?
I'm good. Gregg is a childhood buddy, the only other Atlanta Braves fan I knew at Central, Mid-High, and more. So if we break out into some Zane Smith, Dale Murphy conversation, I'll do my best to pull it back.
Oh, man, those were the days.
I heard when I first started the podcast, Scott, you're going to have some fact checkers. You're going to have some guys that listen, and they're going to hold your feet to the fire. Well, he's our guest today. Gregg texted me the night of the Eastern Avenue Christian Academy episode and alerted me that he could find no record of an 8-man football state championship. So, Gregg, you overefficient jerk, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Scott. It's fun. You could have picked out one out of a couple hundred people, your friends, to be here. So I'm glad you called me.
This is really cool. I have not seen Gregg in 40 years? 35?
Well, we would have graduated 35 years ago, but
I think the last time,
not from the same school.
Right. You went to the wrong one. I think the last time we saw each other, I was standing in your driveway looking at your new Volkswagen.
Really?
I think so.
I don't remember.
Anyway. So, and this is so lazy, but a quick look at Wikipedia on Moore, Oklahoma's page. A quick snippet here is Cleveland County is located in Tornado Alley and experiences tornadoes frequently. The city of Moore is located within the county and has been impacted by 4 violent tornadoes in recent history. They struck in 99, 03, 2010, and 2013. It's one of 2 places on Earth with the most tornadoes per square mile. So hooray, Moore. So Gregg, we're talking about springtime in Oklahoma. It's coming up. So, it's windy 24/7 in Oklahoma. People don't truly realize that, particularly in the springtime, if you're going to get out and get gas, you need to roll your driver's side window down because that gust can bend your car. Like it'll open it up. And I've had out-of-towners that were shocked by it, but it's the truth. It's in the state song.
Yeah, the wind is it's impressive out here. People say, "Oh, it's always windy here and there," but sustained 25-mile-an-hour wind all day long it's just kind of normal.
Yeah, it is. I'm still looking at the Wikipedia page here. Moore's page, the tornadoes is the largest section on the page. It's just above the notable people section featuring Toby Keith, famous angler Jimmy Houston, and porn actress who graduated from Moore High School.
Rest in peace.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that was happened to him.
It's way to bring us down, Gregg. I know it's a show about tornadoes, but well, not the first. I remember I was at a church service one night on Wednesday, I believe, and Edmond got hit when I was in high school. And every spring there's tornado warnings. It's just part of the deal. The biggest one that hit that I remember is probably the 99 F5. Wasn't that over 300 mile an hour wind?
Yes, I think that tornado has the record for the what do you call it, the
Wind
fastest
wind
wind, the
speed, yeah.
fastest, well, the sustained wind speed from a tornado on Earth.
Well, like always,
I don't know that the Joplin or Tuscaloosa one beat
no,
it.
Tuscaloosa
So
wasn't
one,
as fast, but boy, it did a lot of damage too. This proves just how cutting edge I have been my entire life. In 1999, I worked for a pager company back when cell phones were out, and I don't know why people still had pagers, but we had quite a few customers. And my job was to babysit the transmitter across the street, across I-35, from where the huge damage hit over by First Baptist Church in my parents' neighborhood. And so it was one of the most surreal is so overused. I don't know another way to put that. I sat on the roof of my car on a little embankment there, feeding gasoline into the generator that kept the pager transmitter going. I think cell phone as well from there. And I just had to feed that thing fuel all night. And I sat on the car and I watched across the highway with the stadium lights and the floodlights that were out there and the cranes still looking for people in the rubble. Miraculously, First Baptist Church, I believe, had a single board stuck into a wall by one of the big windows that faces 27th Street there. And the devastation in front of it was huge. They had FEMA trailers out there. I remember when Saturday rolled around, for those not initiated to the Midwest, in Oklahoma anyway, at 12 noon, high noon, you can set your clock to it, they test the tornado alarms or the tornado sirens.
sirens. No.
And I remember, there were still like confused birds chirping and debris kind of settling. And so I remember that thing went off for about 10 seconds. Somebody yanked the plug. Like it like somebody strangled it because everybody's kind of shell shocked, and another siren with, they decided not to do it that day, which is smart.
Yeah. And, after the tornadoes in May of 2013, right? Just because of that, they came out and they said, okay, this Saturday, we are not sounding the sirens.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
As long as everything's in the clear, we are not testing them today. So yeah, they've learned from, there was a lot of things learned from that May 3rd, 99 tornado. And that was one of them. Don't
So let me
give
share a
people a little break.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, giving people that little break from the Saturday noon
Yeah.
o'clock sirens.
Yeah, people's nerves were frayed enough. Here's one of the reasons why I think if it's got to happen to a certain group of people, it's Okies. There were news crews from across the country there, and you didn't see the people stopping and doing the interviews, maybe the occasional, when a guy's freed up. And the FEMA trailers sat generally empty. They had a bunch of FEMA aid there that went unclaimed because Okies were just too busy with shovels and helping out their neighbors and rolling over cars and getting things fixed up. And it is just the toughest, most rugged, best people in the world. And I'm very grateful that I'm from there. It's the heart of the country.
Yeah, and talking about FEMA and all those donations, I can remember, being over at my parents' house and helping them clean up and whatever. And every so often, some truck would come by, and they're just looking for people, and they would say, "Hey, we've got, you know, um, we've got water for you. We've got this for you. We got gloves. We got things, just stuff that had been donated." And they're just looking for people
Right.
to give this stuff to. And I can just remember going out to the street from the house with my dad and going up to the thing, and it was so much to the point where it'd be like, we got water, and my dad would say, "Is it cold?" He's like, "No." He goes, "Yeah, I'm good. Um, got enough water in the
Yeah.
garage." You know,
Yeah,
um,
that's another thing. A lot of the things that were dropped off, particularly at the church there, First Baptist, huge Baptist church there in north part of town. A lot of that stuff wound up being donated to homeless shelters, and again because people were busy. People didn't have time to go hoot up in a trailer somewhere. And of course, there were apartment buildings that were leveled. There's one right there on the service road, right where we're talking about. And poor
Mhm.
those guys just had nowhere to go and no routes, some of them. And so I get it. That stuff was vital and appreciated, but local charities, I am certain, would have taken care of that as well. They just take care of their own out there, and it's heartening to see. So the next tornado I remember in that line of just really severe tornadoes in a string was the '03 tornado. I moved to Nashville in '03, but I was still in town for this one. And I just remember I was over at my parents' house, and for whatever reason, they decided to load up and head south because it's not going to get us again. And so I went with them, and we're in parents' minivan, and we're on I-35, and I'm looking out the right. Think it's over the City Moore Shopping Center, somewhere down there. And I see that thing.
Yeah.
I see that thing roaring. It's like, "Yeah, Dad, hit it." And so we turned around, I think Purcell, and I was listening to it on the radio, and it said it was all clear. Now it's Midwest City's problem. So we drove back to their house, and there was some damage, roof damage and stuff, but that part of Moore didn't take the brunt that bad. So there was a 2010 tornado, a 2013 tornado that I was living in Texas briefly for a time in 2013. I had a buddy from Nashville call me and say, "Man, your little town got it." I said, "Is everybody okay?" And I said, "Well, that was a couple of days ago. That was out in Shawnee because it's spring and everybody gets a tornado." So I didn't know. I was busy at work. I didn't know that um, it had hit more. I listened to the radio, and then I heard the details, and then I heard addresses that were familiar and buildings that I knew. And I went home and checked out the news. And, oh my gosh, 24 killed in that one. 10 of them were some kiddos at Plaza Towers Elementary.
Mhm.
That's a staple in town. I played against Plaza Towers in junior league football. Great kids over there, and that's terrible. Those I think they were third graders. Those kiddos
Yeah.
would have graduated high school by now, and that's terrible. It's just, boy, it's how the dice roll in the springtime. I mean, and it's not just tornadoes; it's just violent weather. I don't understand it. I was in spring football. It might have been '87 or '88. It would have been one of the 2 years, and it was thundering and lightning, a snowstorm in March, I think. And we're out there, and the thunder hits. And, thunderstorms in Oklahoma, they happen all the time.
Right.
But this is thunder and lightning in the afternoon, and the bottom falls out, and it snows harder than I may have ever seen it snow in my life. And it was like 10 or 12 inches at the stadium. We were rolling down that hill, and it was, why not? And we couldn't practice. And so we just had a snowball fight and went home. But you never know what you get.
Yeah. Being in thunder snow that's a wild thing when you're out there in the snow and you start hearing thunder.
Do you remember
That's
that one?
Oh no, we've had that a few times.
I just remember that one, and my goodness, it's everything that is violent Oklahoma weather, but without the hail and the rain, or the sideways rain.
Mhm.
And it was
Yeah.
just, oh, it's a
Baseball stays
snowstorm,
home.
right? It's a snowstorm. How weird! How emphatic of God to say, make sure Oklahoma. Oh, you'll get a nice snow today, but it's going to be loud and scary. Of course,
Yeah. Yeah. It's have good insurance on your roof.
right? Well, I went to high school. You went to the crosstown school where the losers went. But I went to high school with a few guys, I think, that are roofers now that are doing pretty well. If you're a roofer in Oklahoma, you're all right. Wow, it says that there's 44 tornado sirens located in Moore. Do you know that?
It probably wouldn't surprise me.
So
I'll tell you when.
let me initiate those outside of Oklahoma, outside, Kansas, North and West Texas, Tornado Alley. There is, it's an event. here, and you mentioned earlier that there is, you pick sides. When I was in high school, uh, the king of the lot was Gary England at the CBS affiliate, and he had a guy, a storm chaser. I understand he's still there, Val.
He is. Val.
I told a guy at my office in Nashville who's a weather nerd, Eddie, longtime co-host here. Eddie loves weather, and tornadoes fascinate him. I told him about Val and the conversations with Gary England, and he looked at me like like a dog looks at you when you make a weird sound. And so, of course, he went to YouTube, and the rest of the day he was captured with the sights and sounds. And growing up, we're watching TV. Like, hey, Val, is it Val? Is it a meslo cyclone, Val? And then, and then there's poor Val with his hood up, on his jacket, and the stop sign there on Sooner Road, 240, just dancing in the background like one of those ribbon dudes that are aired up at the car lots. And he's like, Gary, it's wrapped in rain, and it's inside another tornado that's somehow inside a third tornado. It's the whole thing. And then they'll have people driving around. And you can speak to this better than me. I haven't been there in a while. I watch it from afar, and I remember the terror of the springtime there. But they'll have a guy inevitably on I-44 headed north, and it's the sky's black, and he hears the roar, and he starts rumbling, and he's like explaining what's going on. And Gary's was emphatically telling people to get in the middle section of their house or get in a storm shelter. And he's out there, like, he would saddle that tornado and lasso something if he could. Like, those guys are just intrepid or dumb. I don't know.
Yeah, and what's different now is that there's so much, right? It is an event, and the local stations, not just Oklahoma City, but also Tulsa, because sometimes if it's really bad in the Oklahoma City area, they'll pull their sister stations down from Tulsa, and so
I've seen that. Yeah.
So they may have 6, 8 storm chasers running around the state, following different things. Yeah. And that's just one of the news channels. And now you've got the other two doing that as well. So, and then the part of the scary part now, especially after 99, is that whole tourism aspect of it. So part of it is we want to see it. And so then you're like, hey, I'm only about 20 miles away from there. I think I can get in the truck and drive down there and go see me in a tornado.
Yeah.
So you get everybody going out and down there chasing too with these praying storm chasers. And then I don't know if you saw the movie last summer, the Twisters movie out there.
I've seen the second one yet.
Yeah. They kind of highlight it, but there are like people from Europe who come on holiday. They come to Oklahoma and Kansas and chase tornadoes to catch a tornado for like the month of May. And that's common too. And so you'll be watching these storms now, and you'll see Val or Hank Brown, and they'll be out there in some barely paved state or county road in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, and they can't get to where they're going because there's another 20 trucks out there with them that they're fighting to get down the road with. And that can get dangerous.
With Dorothy in the back of the truck.
There's a pretty solid follow on Facebook, a page called Fried Okla, OKLA. And those guys are pretty funny. And they post a lot of nonsense, which, right up my alley. And they posted this week about legislation that's going to stop some of that. And their general thought on it was, we're going to do it anyway. It was a pretty funny video they posted. Anyway, that's a good follow for fans of the podcast, Fried Okla, and they're on Facebook. I guess that's a plug. I don't know. They seem like good boys. And they've posted some of my nonsense from free nights and weekends. So,
Yeah, because then right on top of that, you've got OU and Texas Tech and their weather departments and all their equipment,
Right.
running around too. So on on those big storm days anymore, I mean, there are just people everywhere and out there covering it. Not necessarily for the news, but for their YouTubes and TikToks and all kinds of things.
Now,
And the other thing that, yeah,
help me out. When we were kids, was the tornado drill to go in the hallway and cover our heads?
either the hallway or one of the bathrooms. It probably depended on um, where we were in the building, and but yeah, I remember some years it was in the girls' bathroom, some years it was in the hallway.
I guess that's no different than kids in the 1960s getting under their desk when a nuclear bomb's coming, because that'll probably save you.
Of course, you won't see the flash.
Right. Yeah. So, they call it, well, again, the Wikipedia ad here says the tornado capital of the world. So you were telling me, we talked briefly before this about the 99 tornado when I was watching the cleanup over 3 or 4 nights in a row, where I spent the night there with the terminal. You were in Oklahoma at the time, right? Central Oklahoma.
Yeah, yeah.
You remember that one?
Oh yeah, that's a core memory.
Go on.
Oh, oh, yeah. So one of the things I vividly remember on May 3rd, walking out of work that afternoon, and there was just like this haze in the air that was just not normal.
Oh,
I just
Greg.
remember.
Yeah, I lived in Bethany at the time, and I was mowing my front lawn, and I remember seeing the sky, and it looked. I'm colorblind, but it looks like what people call green, like in the sky. It was just wild, and everything was kind of quiet. And that's when I went in to listen, and it said it was headed for Bethany. That's why I went to Moore, to be at my parents' house to be safe.
And this was about 4 o'clock. This was even before before the tornado had spun up. But I just remember walking out and there was just something different in the air.
Yeah.
That afternoon, and I went home and had tickets to go see the Oklahoma City Blazers play that night. They were our minor league hockey team at the time, and they were in the championship series. We go up to the Myriad downtown, and I would park in the garage underneath the Myriad. And so parked in the garage, went up, sitting in the stands in the seats.
Wait a minute. There was parking below the Myriad?
Yeah.
Oh, the shoe leather I lost parking in Nichols Hills to walk to a concert at the Myriad. You're kidding me.
This is news?
That's frustrating.
I mean, the Myriad's been here for 50 some years.
Yeah, I know. But I used to walk what seemed like the Donner Party to get to Motley Crue. Like any concert I went to. You're kidding me. I did not know there was parking underneath that building. I'm pretty mad.
Yeah. Well, and part of my obsessive compulsiveness, right? I wanted to be there early so I could park underneath the Myriad. The teams come out onto the ice and they're doing their pregame warm-up stuff. And at some point, the teams leave the ice and they go back to their locker rooms. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. And then you see all the kind of like the staff, the score keepers and side officials or whatever, they leave the ice and they go into the locker room area, except for the PA guy. And the PA guy comes on and he says, there's a big tornado in the area and it's coming this way. We need to evacuate the arena. So everybody leave the arena and go downstairs to the parking garage below.
Wait a minute. Once
the arena.
again, he announced to the crowd that there was parking below the Myriad.
He told us go downstairs to the parking garage beneath the Myriad to ride out the tornado.
I'm so annoyed by this. This has derailed this entire episode. Go ahead.
So we go down, we go sit in the car, turn the radio on so we can figure out what's going on. And at that point, every local station, you'll remember, right? Every local station kind of had like some kind of tie to the news channels.
Yeah.
So if there was like a major event, they would flip some switch and they would pick up the news feed from 459, whoever they had a relationship with.
Right.
Because they did that, right? They did that with the bombing, and they were doing that with the tornado, where turned on the car and end up listening to Gary England talking about what's going on through Moore.
Right.
So after a while, we decided to go back upstairs and go back to the game. And I don't know how long we were down there and how long we were listening to the radio, because whenever we got back into the arena to the seats, they had already started the game. But just the atmosphere in the arena was just weird, and it was just dead, and it's like, this is a game. I don't remember what game in the series it was, game 1, game 3. I don't remember. But this is the championship series, people should be going nuts. And it wasn't uncommon, right?
Wonder if they're going home to their house or not.
Well, yeah, and that's what it was, right? So there's just kind of all this. The fans are distracted, right? We nobody knows what's going on. People are mumbling. So we get to the first intermission, and my ex turns to me and she says, "Maybe you ought to call your parents, because people are talking about it leveling more."
Oh boy!
And so I'm like, okay. So to help make you feel old, right? So get up out of the seats, go into the concourse, find the payphone, and I called my parents.
If you had a Teletouch pager, they could have let you know.
Yeah, no, I wasn't calling out the pager. My brother did. But so yeah, I call. My mom answers, and she says, "Yeah, we're fine. We don't have a roof, but we're good."
Oh wow!
And it's like, okay. So go back into the arena now.
Thank goodness for that. I mean, they were safe.
Yeah, and you kind of don't know how to react. So go back into the arena, start the second period, and my ex says, "Yeah, maybe we should go to your parents' house." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do that." So we leave the game in the second period, and we run down more, and to go check on my parents' house, and the roof was still on the house. So I'm not sure why my mom said the roof was gone. It was still there, so they were okay. Obviously no power, nothing to the house, but like 3 houses down, everything's gone. The tornado just skirted by their house, and at some point when I was a kid, my dad built a roof so we would have a covered patio in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And what he said was, when he did that, he went into the roof and he anchored it with the beams in the roof.
Yeah.
To give it just support. And so he thinks by adding that covered patio on later, it saved the roof. Because what he said, what ended up happening was the tornado just tried to lift the roof, and that patio cover kept it on, but it just beat the hell out of the house.
That's a dad thing to say. That you know what, we would have lost this house if it hadn't been for that job I did on that covered patio.
Because I did it right.
Right.
I did it the old way. I didn't just
American
lay it on top of the roof. Right.
It's American workmanship. I got my name on my belt on the back of it. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So
I like that.
So yeah. It just the roof just beat the hell out of the house to make it structurally unsound. So insurance condemned it, and they got to tear it down and rebuild.
Nuts. So I know that these stories sound peculiar to those that don't live in Tornado Alley. It's it, it's not fictionalized. This is very normal. I think there was a tornado. Wasn't there a tornado warning in Moore on Christmas Day a couple of years back?
I can't remember.
Did not. Yeah, I don't know.
We
But
did have a tornado in December a couple years ago, I think, in
so
Oklahoma.
here's the deal. I know that when I hear about things from other parts of the country, like fishing shanties in Michigan in the wintertime, that I used to work with a guy and he said, yeah, man, we'd go out there and build a little house on it, cut a hole in the water and fish. I said, on the lake? You built a house on the lake? Yeah, we all did it. We catch walleye and cook them up. Like, so you built a house on the lake? Yeah, we drive out there on it. That's just so foreign to me. That sounds like Norway. So, we're a big country and things regionally are weird to people, but it's so ingrained in Okies. I was in, I was in my living room in Tennessee, and it's 2019. I'm typing on my computer for work, and on the news, on the crawler at the bottom, it said tornadoes on the ground in Oklahoma. Okay, of course. And then they broke in. They said there's tornadoes in Cleveland County, Oklahoma. It's lightning and hail, and Norman, Oklahoma is flooded. Oh, and there's a bunch of tigers on the loose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it got an eyebrow raise, but that's about it. Like Okies can see any, like and then they went on to tell the story that it had hit an exotic animal park and the tigers and I think some hyenas and a bear, maybe, I don't know. Or now they're wandering around Norman in a flood. So
tunnel.
tunnel, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the Norman was flooded and they didn't know where the tigers were. But and again,
Well,
somebody's asked me about this before. Is that the Tiger King guy? No,
no,
that's
no.
another collection of hicks somewhere in the Oklahoma City metro that has a bunch of big cats. And I don't know how many of those there are, but the tornadoes are going to find them. And
Yeah,
scatter them.
So, kind of part of that, right, is when you talk about all those tornadoes, right? And so your friends and everybody out here, right, who've gone through that, there's a lot of trauma associated with tornadoes, right? And so whenever that tornado happened, and it was after the 2013 tornadoes and things, it was just in that time frame where there are just all these tornadoes just bearing down on it. And they start getting those news reports that, yeah, the tiger safari in Tuttle's been hit and they're missing tigers. And,
right. But that's the thing. I would go.
But people,
go ahead.
I just think, but people latch onto that out of that kind of, that absurdness, humor aspect of the situation.
Well, Greg, when I'm at work the next week and a buddy of mine sends me a meme that has, I think it was Damon Lane with an Oklahoma map next to him, and it had percentage of tiger, and it was tiger stripe, the different colors. And it's like 4 days away from when I was sitting in my living room hearing about back home that there was a flood and hail and tornadoes and tigers.
Well, we thought the tigers were crossing the river and coming into the city, and we didn't know where they were. I mean, people were out with their shotguns looking for the tigers.
There's a tiger with a bus pass. He's up in Edmond.
It's like, don't go outside on the porch and looking for tornadoes because the tigers may eat them.
Mike Morgan. Hey, it's snowing today. There is some hyenas left in Norman. I'm going to watch those. And hey, the kiddos need to wrap up for school this morning. Hey, back up a minute. What did you say? I don't.
What about going out on your porch?
Yeah,
Don't go.
here's the deal. This is the worst part about it. When Tiger King came out, and everybody knows who Tiger King is, um, I have to explain to people that know where I'm from. No, that's not the tigers that got scattered. That's another guy in Oklahoma with tigers. It's just. By the way, can we talk about Tiger King and why nobody talked about the rotten meat from Walmart pizzas he was selling? That's the thing. I mean, first of all, the
Well,
most
how many
normal.
did you enjoy?
I've never been, which upsets me. The most normal thing about that whole show was the one-armed lesbian. She was the most normal one of the whole show. And we're just going to, hey, wait a minute. This guy's getting expired meat, and then he's selling it on pizzas, and people are just lapping it up. Let's talk about that for a minute. But there were other things to cover
He's a
on that show.
savvy businessman.
Yeah. I mentioned on Facebook recently, with all the pardons from president coming out and the president leaving office and entering office, how did he not get a pardon when all the pardons were going? Tiger King's still in prison. They call this a democracy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, spring's coming. You're out there.
Spring's
Final
coming.
thoughts?
Hey, how about one other little funny story?
Go, man.
So, do you ever have a kidney stone?
No, but everybody to a man tells me it's the worst pain they've ever felt.
It's pretty bad. So, it was probably 2015. I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm getting kidney stones, and I'm just in agony, and I can't lay in bed. I keep flopping around, so I get up, go in the living room so I don't wake up my wife, and take Tylenol or whatever, and it just gets worse, right? The pain just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and I'm just soaked in sweat after a few hours. And so I get to the point where the hardest point for any man to get to, right? And that's to go back in the bedroom and wake up my wife and say, "You need to take me to the ER."
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one.
So I do that. We go, and they're like, "Yep, you got a kidney stone. We're going to pump you and make you feel better and send you home." I did good for a month or two, and the kidney stones started coming back. But this time I knew what I was going through, right? So I was toughing it out at home and just letting those episodes run their course. And then there was one night we had tornadoes, and I had one of these really, really bad kidney stone attacks. And so at the time, right, I would go into the bedroom and I would watch the news, and the tornadoes and stuff. And so, Kim and the kids were nervous and about the tornadoes, and they're kind of close to us and coming, are they coming or are they not? So they decided to go down into the tornado shelter. I can barely move because I'm in immense pain, right? So I'm rolling around in the floor, watching the news, watching Hank chase the tornado for us. Tell us,
God, that's miserable.
Telling us where it's at. I'm miserable. She's texting me, "Where is it? Where is it? How's it going up there? And I just
wait a minute. Your wife wasn't with you?
She and the kids went down into the shelter.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, you couldn't get in.
I wasn't going in. Yeah,
right.
So I was staying up to keep track of the shelter. So yeah, if that tornado would have come down and hit the house, I would have been gone because I would have been rolling around the floor with a kidney stone.
Yeah, but still though, dude, no more kidney stone.
Possibly. But and here's the great ending to that story. So right, I go back to the urologist shortly after that, and he's like, "Yeah, you didn't pass it. It's still there. It just may have got stuck in the track and kept things open for a while." He goes, "I'm going to have to go in and get it." And you know what that involves, right?
I don't get kidney stones because I drink plenty of fluids and Jesus loves me.
Yeah. So, yeah, they've got to go in through an opening, um,
Mm-mm.
get up to your kidney, get up into the
Mm.
track and pull that thing out.
Do you get to pick the opening?
What?
Do you get to pick the
Oh,
opening?
no. No. So,
Uh,
so I go in and to have that procedure, and they knock you out. Right? I'm out. I'm gone. And I wake up. The nurse is waking me up. Right? And she's like, "Get off the bed. You got to go. You got to go pee." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go over. I take care of my thing. I get back in the bed, and my wife's sitting there, and she goes, "Did they tell you?" I'm like, "They just told me to go pee." And she goes, "But did they tell you about the procedure?" And I'm like, "No." She said, "There was nothing there. You passed it."
oh my gosh.
So I went through that whole procedure, and the pain for a week after of being in fear
Oh
of going
my.
to the bathroom for nothing.
So when did you pass it?
In between the time I went in for that checkup, like on a Wednesday, I think I went in on a Wednesday and had the procedure on Friday morning.
Lord. I know that people all over are looking at their phones and laptops thinking, I thought this was about tornadoes. Ugh. All right. Way to end it.
Pass your stepping
Good.
stones, and if you get to ride a tornado out with kidney stones, that just makes it all the more memorable.
I'm thinking about getting a place out there and hanging up a sign for Germans and Swedes in the springtime. Come on out, chase them. Get you a big old 10-gallon hat, some Del Ranchos, and enjoy it.
Get you a Ford Raptor and extra gas tanks.
Right. Do it up. Greg, dude, I really appreciate you being on. It was great reconnecting, and I appreciate the stories.
Yeah, this was fun. We ought to do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, we will. I got a couple of episodes coming up that you would be able to provide some great insight to.
Yeah, that heartbreaking, heartbreaking first loss in World War.
I won't talk about that. We had a strict rule. Go Lions.
All right, that's it. Another one in the books. Sorry about the inside baseball there at the end. Greg went to the brand new loser high school across town, and they beat my school in football something like 30 times in a row. And he always takes every chance he can get to talk about his Jaguars. Quick note, how many here in the audience remembers Michigan J. Frog? The old cartoon where the construction worker finds a frog, takes him to his apartment, and he sings opera. Then he gets an entire opera house full of people, paid tickets, advertising, puts a top hat, some spats on that frog, and he doesn't do anything but ribbit. Well, as soon as we disconnected, Greg tells me a story about driving through Moore during a tornado with black skies. The police have blocked off a city street and won't let him go back to his own house. Things flying around. And, of course, ribbit. I guess it's kind of my fault. He needed a little direction. But I don't like taking blame. Focus, Reeves. Yeah. Anyway, first time out for Greg. Great job. Appreciate you coming. Look us up on all the socials, free nights and weekends. Leave your comments, story ideas, pictures of your cat, sourdough bread recipes, song lyrics, taunts, pictures of your kids' band recitals, whatever you got. We're always glad to hear from you.
What year? Again, this is edited out. What year was your Blazers hockey story?
That was the May 3rd, 99
99.
tornado.
Okay. And then that was the one that got your parents' house?
Yeah.
I never liked them. All right. So back to it. What was the last thing I said?
I never liked them.
I might make this cut. Oh, Lord. Okay.